Hello. How are you doing this evening? I'm Camden Walker for Capital Weather Gang. We're at WashingtonPost.com/weather anytime need us. The week is going to be warm within a few degrees of 80 for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. A cold front comes through, likely without much, if any, rain chances late Wednesday, early Thursday. And so we turn into breezy 60s for the end of the week, but I think we could warm back up near to around 70 by Saturday, Sunday. So the kind of cooler fall-like air doesn't last too long. I do think that even though we are within a few degrees of 80 over the next 1, 2, 3 days, Monday through Wednesday, we should stay shy of the record high temperatures in the mid 80s. So it is definitely above average, definitely warm for this time of year, more September-like than October-like. Good evening, David. Hi, Albert. Good to see you from Hyattsville there on Facebook. Thanks so much, Kristen, for joining. Hutch, CM, Julius, Cheeky, LM, Swathia, and George Elliott, thanks so much for tuning in. The fall foliage is slowly marching toward us between I-81 and toward I-95, but just a reminder, late October into early November is not unusual to see peak fall colors around and east of I-95 and even downtown in DC. Good evening, Peter. Good evening, and daughter Annabelle. And Vegan from X, thanks so much for tuning in. We do need some rain. Let's talk about that. We are generally doing okay with kind of the drought staying well to our west, but it is abnormally dry in the yellow here in the region. I've also included the PM update at the very top. There is a discussion I included today about pollen aspects, but yes, we are abnormally dry in the yellow. Drought doesn't really start until far western Virginia, kind of north of Winchester. Western Maryland and especially West Virginia remains the epicenter for the drought conditions in our region. So we're not seeing water restrictions near the DC area. We're not seeing major hydrological or agricultural issues. Gardeners and some farmers, yes, if you haven't seen frost and freezes and you're still having to water, it's a little annoying for sure. Not great, but a lot of us have seen frost and freezes. This helps contain the amount of moisture being taken out of the soil by plants. Evapotranspiration needs between plants and a low sun angle. Evapotranspiration is low this time of year. That's why we can go longer, further into the future with less rain because we are not being baked by a hot, high sun in the middle of the summer, for instance. And we are kind of nearing the end of our growing season from west to east throughout the region. Now, along and east of I-95, that's where gardeners and farmers, you're kind of feeling it the most. It's extra annoying because generally the growing season continues for another week or two before our first frost and freezes may come into play. Let's see. Peter, yep, we need rain. Julia, no rain to speak of for the foreseeable future. I'm sorry that this forecast kind of keeps precipitation very, very limited, if any. And the rainfall amounts are generally zero throughout our region. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe I'll throw in Sunday as well. 5 to 15% chance of a stray shower, maybe even a thunder shower, but that's unlikely. Rain amounts, if any, will be very brief, very, very small, very light rain. So it's not great for gardeners and farmers, especially where growing season continues, as I was saying, along and east of I-95. So we need to continue watering, and it's going to be very sunny this week. Granted, the sun angle is pretty darn low this time of year. Soils are not going to be baked and having massive evaporation, happen in the soil. So we don't have a a lot of shade in the region with lower sun angles. So it's not a huge issue, but decently sunny, especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe a few more clouds at the end of the week into the weekend as well. And then we are looking, I guess we'll talk about the medium term into next work week, more of the same. I think 70s are possible. It's likely above average, though our average high temperatures continue to march downward pretty fast this time of year. So keep that in mind. When you see likely above average temperatures, it's closer to 75 rather than 80 perhaps next work week. And precipitation, sorry for all those of you wanting the rain, I understand, but kind of leaning below average for precipitation next work week as well. So with frost and freezes kind of remaining at bay for the foreseeable future, along with these rain chances, those of you along and east of I-95 where you have not seen frost and freezes, just continue to water as needed. But at least we're not dealing with the central part of summer with the highest sun angle, hottest temperatures, and the most plant growth. All of that equals high evapotranspiration needs in the middle of summer. We're not dealing with that this time of year. So there is a little bit of good news. All right, let me check your questions and comments. I'm Camden Walker for the Capital Weather Gang. We're at WashingtonPost.com/weather. This is our 20-minute Sunday Sunset Live Q&A. I'm pleased to see you. Fall foliage is below. It's slowly marching with more color from west to east from I-81 toward the I-95 corridor. My PM update is very far there at the top. Just above me here in my hat is the forecast at a glance. Very warm within a few degrees of 80 Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Cooling down late week into breezy 60s. Scant, slight, tiny rain chances, but generally a cold front coming through late Wednesday, early Thursday, expected to be dry. Sorry for gardeners and farmers still having parts of the region in a growing season. All right, let me check Instagram. The original. Uh, yes, we do need to refill the bird baths and maybe some pet bowls if needed for our friends or animal friends. That's a great point. Carly, thanks for joining. Zach Mooney, Kristen, and Swathina, and Amijayo, and AH, and let's see, we've got Siamovius, and Wander Thorough, and BS Lom, and Suze Lane, and Cool Handy, and Sandy J. Boyd, and BS Blom Mom 5. Thanks for tuning in from Instagram. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, X, and Facebook. Good to see you, Wilbur and Ruth Elisa. Hi. So thanks for tuning in, Ruth Elisa from Facebook. We've got Dalen and Wilbur and Dalen on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. And indeed, enjoy the warmth this week. And David, uh, can't rule out 80 maybe next work week after our or within a few degrees of 80, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for high temperatures this week. Next work week, I think generally the warmth that will continue above average because our averages are falling pretty darn quickly, perhaps the quickest of the year right now. So I think closer to 75 for warmth next week rather than 80, but cannot completely rule 80 out just yet. Remember, it's hit 80 degrees every month of the year except December, thanks to human warmed climate change. So, Paul, let's see. Looks like you'll enjoy your Wednesday night parade. Uh, a little bit cool and breezy, perhaps, as the cold front comes through on Wednesday evening, but it's not going to be chilly and too cool. So please enjoy that very much. Dalen, thanks for tuning in from YouTube. And we've got Wilbur on YouTube and Liz, hi. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook. And Lewis, you're cutting grass this weekend. So I bet you did create a dust storm. From what I recall, when we're cutting grass this time of year, especially a dry time of year, try and cut it longer to force the roots a little deeper. But I'm sure you know that, Lewis. And then Peter, yes, we do need rain. Not much is expected in the next 7 days. Let me put that up here for you. Near zero rain chances, unfortunately, and near zero rain amounts, but a stray shower, maybe a quick thunder shower, possible Thursday through Sunday, I would say. It's very slightly possible. We're talking 5, 10, maybe 15% chance. The cold front coming through that knocks back our temperatures easily 15 degrees back into the breezy 60s for Thursday onward. It's probably going to come through dry, unfortunately. I know we have some gardeners and farmers who are getting annoyed, and people like Lewis mowing their grass, not wanting things to dry up while we still have growing season underway in approximately half of our region along and east of I-95. Let's see, we've got Laura. Good to see you on YouTube. And allergy reports. So let me make sure you saw that, Laura. Let's check that out. I've got it down here with the current drought conditions, which luckily are staying away from the region. Abnormally dry here in the yellow. Luckily, no drought conditions are close to the DC area just yet, but we'll keep an eye on that. And algae reports, generally, I think it's a little bit of grass, a little bit of weeds this time of year, and some mold spores. But all the details are in my PM update there at the very top at WashingtonPost.com/weather. I talked about all the allergen profiles, the four main categories throughout a typical year and how those are behaving this time of year. Generally, everything is on schedule, and hopefully we can say goodbye for now, for the winter, for trees and grasses. And today could have been my last allergy report. We'll see how things behave in the coming weeks. But we're getting near the end of growing season, which is good. All right. So we did say drought is generally under control, even though yes, we're abnormally dry and it's noticeable for gardeners and farmers along and east of I-95, where the growing season does continue. Much of the same next work week. Above average temperatures are likely, below average precipitation slightly possible. leaning that way. So expect maybe more 70s next week. I think 80 is more of a stretch next week because average high temperatures are coming down pretty quickly this time of year. And remember, that's kind of a relativistic map in comparison to average, right? So averages are coming down, even though it's saying likely we're above average for next work week. Remember, it's all one unit for the entire work week that we're, addressing, and that our temperatures are coming down. The average high temperatures are coming down for next work week. All right, tropics are a little active. I'm sure somebody has asked me if I've missed it. I apologize, but every week we try and check the tropics. No impacts expected anytime soon to any interest in the United States. Nadine has dissipated over Mexico. There was a tiny chance it may cross over into the Pacific, but currently listed by the National Hurricane Center as dissipated. And then below here, we've got Oscar as a hurricane did make landfall in Cuba, expected to slowly recurve off to the north and northeast in the coming days and meander over kind of that part of the Atlantic north of Hispaniola. So currently fine for United States interests. Maybe some extra wave action in the southeastern United States this week, but that is the extent of it so far. And we could stay a little active in the general larger Caribbean sea zone into early November. And just remember, hurricane season doesn't end until the end of November. So we'll keep a small eye on things for you as well. All right, KT and Tina, thanks for joining in. JP Chocolate, John, JM's on Instagram, AM Susan, Brian Jackson, good to see you. Ashley and CM and Arjun and Wander Thor. Cold front and no rain, no moisture is in the atmosphere. Right now, it's cut off from the moisture source of the Gulf of Mexico. It's kind of moving in from the northwest without being able to draw from the south and southwest. Much moisture, this cold front coming in late Wednesday, early Thursday. We just aren't there yet to be able to have moisture be drawn up with these dry cold fronts coming through. We need to wait for kind of the polar jet stream to get a little more active, the subtropical jet stream to get a little more active. We need bigger differences in the broader temperature differences over large distances in the northern hemisphere between warm and cold. And the Arctic just hasn't cooled down enough yet. The water temperatures in the Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico just haven't cooled down enough yet. We just don't have a major driving force for major jet stream action from the polar jet stream or the subtropical jet stream to really come together to give us a good rainy cold front passage right now, Wander. So that's a great question. All right, let me make sure I've caught up on all the Instagram forecasts. Algae forecast, Misha, let me make sure you saw that. So I'll go over that one last time here. Your pollen report there directly above me. Drought conditions are under control with just abnormally dry, not technically a drought around DC, but west of town and east of town, we are surrounded by some drought zones. So gardeners and farmers continue to water around the region. The next week or two looks very dry in our area as the growing season is coming to a close along and even east of I-95, perhaps in the next couple of weeks as well. So we got mold, we have some weeds. That's the two main allergen categories, but please see my PM update there at the very top at washingtonpost.com/weather. You can find all the details that I discussed, what may have been my last allergy report, and I discussed kind of all four categories for the year, Misha. So I hope you saw that. Thanks for your question on Instagram. And Wander Thor, you're most welcome. MD Andrews and Kiko and Yembi and JB and JMC, thanks for tuning in on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, YouTube, and X. Hi Fifi on X. We will get colder, I think, in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Stand by for that. Let's make sure the atmosphere can switch into a slightly more November-like pattern by the time we get to November. And Paul, I'm surprised you haven't seen your first frost there, but let's go over first frost really quick for you. Typical first frosts are mid to late October for much of the region. I've got it here. There we go. Let's stop the covering it up with the drought report there. I'll put pollen back up there for a couple of you and my PM update. But typical first frost and freezes are happening for kind of mid to late October in the greens, and in parts of the region wait until November in the yellows, kind of darker and brighter yellows. Those are both into November. So I think if you somehow missed your frost or freeze so far in kind of north central Virginia, you're lucky. I think you might get another 10 days of growing season there. That's excellent. You may have been in a warm spot, so that is great, but you'll have to unfortunately do a lot of watering with little to no rain expected over the next week, perhaps even 10 days, 2 weeks. So we will keep you posted at the Capital Weather Gang, but it is looking mighty dry. over the coming short and medium term. All right, let me put back up the PM updates, my forecast at a glance there at the top of above my hat here. Within a few degrees of 80, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, cooler, breezy 60s, Thursday, Friday, maybe back up to 70 for the weekend. But clouds start moving back in, even if we see very little low rain chances at the end of the week, into the weekend. We'll keep you posted. We're looking and hunting for some raindrops as well. Fall foliage is turning more colorful, as is typical this time of year, as it marches from kind of northwest towards southeast parts of our region, from I-81 over to I-95. But remember, we have to wait even toward early November, along and east of I-95 sometimes, and especially downtown, I've noticed can be early November for peak fall foliage. Here's my temperature animation provided by Pivotal Weather. That we have very warm reds for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, within a few degrees of 80 for high temperatures. We should stay shy of our records in the mid 80s this week, but prepare to be warm. It's going to be like September, but it's a dry heat, very little moisture in the air for rain or for humidity purposes. And then cooler there at the end here, we've got 60s, kind of cooler 60s, and the yellows coming in with some breezes Thursday, Friday, into the weekend. Maybe rebounding back up towards 70, if not a little better, Saturday and Sunday this upcoming week as well. All right. Paul, you've had 30s, but no frost. Ruth Lisa, don't forget to vote. Do we have a couple weeks? Yep, we have a couple more weeks. Can't believe, David, it's almost November. Time change is 2 weeks away, just under. So that's falling back in a couple weeks. And Ruth Elisa, I agree, today was so nice. Julie's wearing not just sweaters, but leather and suede season. I love that. Social worker, thanks for tuning in on X. Halloween weather, I generally lean mild and dry, but it's a little soon to dip into the details. We have, what, another 11 days or so. So that's a great point. I need to remember to look at Halloween weather for our next weekly Sunday Sunset Chat next week. It will be about almost 10 minutes earlier than today. I'm Camden Walker for the Capital Weather Gang. We're at WashingtonPost.com/weather anytime you need us. Temperature animation directly below here. Right above me is the forecast at a glance, showing you the warmth, the dry, rain-free conditions, the sunshine this week. Great for outdoor activities. Gardeners and farmers, look away. If you need to be annoyed about lack of water, I get it. There's going to be a lot of watering for those of you that still have growing season this week. And then at the very top there is my PM updates, which you can find at WashingtonPost.com/weather. Went into all the details of the forecast. And let's see, we've got Charlene. Looks like I need to really focus on, and we have 11 days before Halloween. I lean mild and dry, but I want to, still too soon to get into the details on exact timing and details for Halloween just yet. But I love making a note for that. All right, we've got Fifi on X. Yep, it should be cold, hopefully, come November. Hopefully, we can flip this pattern a little bit. David, we do have a little bit of ragweed and mold around. I hope you saw my allergy report. I'll try and recap that in just a minute. Good to see you, social worker on X. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we've got, I think I've caught up on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Oh, Lisa, hi, good to see you on Facebook. Thanks so much for tuning in. And Paul, you're most welcome. Thanks for the kind words. And yes, look forward to my Halloween forecast, my spooky Halloween forecast next Sunday for our weekly Sunday Sunset Chat then in 1 week's time. I've got to remember to focus on Halloween. I'm not a huge Halloween person, but it's important. It's a lot of community activities seem to go around the Halloween celebrations. So we want to check on that for sure. On Instagram, we've got Carlo, Alan, and Rachel, Kaylee, and W. Wren, and MP Bush. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yep, 80s on Tuesday, Tribe B. Great birthday weather. Happy birthday on Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, within a few degrees of 80 for much of the region. I think these could be a little bit cool on Monday and Wednesday. We should stay shy of our high temperatures in the mid 80s. The record high temperatures are in the mid 80s for Monday through Wednesday. So we should stay just shy of that. But we're easily 12 degrees above average right now for the early part of this week. But then breezy 60s return Thursday, Friday with maybe a few more clouds, maybe a quick shower sprinkle chance. But it's looking like very hard to find rain chances for this week and maybe next week as well. Abby, thanks for tuning in. Kateller, M. Herson, and Nikki, thank you very much. All right, on the air another few seconds. Let me recap things for you. I'm Kendall Walker for the Capital of the Gang. We're at WashingtonPost.com/weather. Precipitation, very hard to come by and find this week. Essentially zero precipitation expected to accumulate in the next 7 days. 5 to 15% chance, maybe, for raindrops Thursday to Sunday period if you want to hold out hope. But gardeners and farmers, if you haven't seen your first frost and freezes yet and still have growing season, you'll have to continue to water through this week, if not some of next week as well. And it is very sunny this week. Clouds, very hard to find Monday through Wednesday, but a little bit more as we get cooler and breezier Thursday onward this week. All right, so drought is not technically near the DC region. We are in the yellow, abnormally dry, D0, but drought is to our east, drought is to our west, especially in West Virginia. Pollen and allergens are generally under control, but if you were allergic to weeds and mold spores, very little weed. The weed allergens, that's all it takes to really affect me for a little bit of ragweed. I do not like it, even at these low levels. I do feel it, so I think David and I are both sneezing. Thanks for tuning in, David, from Facebook. And my PM update is there at the very top, where I go into very detailed reporting, maybe my last allergen detailed report for the year on how all four categories are behaving going into the end of growing season. Much of the same for temperatures, likely above average next work week. So looking out into the future medium term, and precipitation leans below average for next work week as well. Sorry again for those of you still with growing season without frost and freezes recently. The tropics are fine for the United States, maybe some extra wave action from Oscar as it meanders north, moving after landfall in Cuba. It's going to meander for the next few days, maybe through the Bahamas and into the Atlantic. We'll keep an eye on it, but so far, no United States impact issues expected other than maybe some waves in the southeastern United States. Kind of stirred up a little bit this week as well. And Nadine has dissipated over Mexico. All right. With that, I will see you next week. I'll focus on that Halloween forecast detail since we have 11 days. Maybe I'm leaning dry and mild-ish, but I will keep you posted as I'll have another update next week on fall foliage. And forecast at a glance starts warm through midweek, maybe 80 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then cooler, breezy 60s come in for the end of the week, and a little bit milder again for the weekend as well. So let me sign off. Steve, good to see you from Facebook. Thanks for tuning in from Culpeper. Next Sunday, Social Worker should be around 6:15. I want to say it's going to be earlier than tonight, 6:22. The sunsets are getting earlier and earlier for our Sunday, 20-minute Sunday Sunset Live Q&A chat. Jay Louise, 34 Wonder, thanks for tuning in from Instagram. I think I've caught up on all of these questions and comments over here on Instagram. And Lewis, good luck with the roof. I think that's a good time to install a roof this time of year with it being so sunny and dry. Social Worker, you're most welcome. Ruth Lisa, see you next week. David, see you next week. I am not going to dress up Ruth Lisa for Halloween, but I'll have the Halloween forecast ready for you next week. All right, everyone, take care. Try and get outside. Other than the rain chances that we wish were a little higher for gardeners and farmers, it's great outdoor weather. Let's try and spin positive. It's hard to find such a good stretch of comfortable warmth in DC. So let's take what we have while we have it and get outside this week as much as possible. All right, take care, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye for now.